soma kijana, masiku zazidi badilika, kijana wazuri wazidi kuzaliwa na dunia.
Today's lesson is about Trigonometry II, and we are specifically dealing with the trigonometric ratios of angles between 0 degrees and 360 degrees. In order for you to understand this topic, or rather this subtopic, I want step by step to review the unit circle, because in this topic unit circle is the backbone, right? Now there is something important I want you to know, that when we are finding the trigonometric ratios using unit circle, for example, if we try to find the trigonometric ratios of any angle between 0 and 90, maybe we draw an angle of 30 degrees over here, from 0 all the way, we have that there. So if you join these ones and draw 30. Now using ruler, we draw this point to meet x-axis, and we draw this other point to meet y-axis. Now this point, the intersection between the angle making, the line making an angle of 30 degrees, meet with the circumference of the circle at this point. Probably we can call it P, where we have the values of x and the values of y, right? Now if this is the origin, then, and from this origin to this point is 1 unit, which is positive, then it means any value of y at this point, any value of x is at this point will be between 0 and 1. That means it will be positive. So the values of x will be positive. Now let us use calculator and see what is probably sine, or we can take cos 30 degrees. Cos 30 degrees will give us 0.87 into 2 significant figures, and sine 30 degrees will give us 0.5. Now this means that the values of x at this point is 0.87, and the values of y from 0 to 1, so it means this, and you can clearly see it's almost the midway between 0 and this point is 0.5. Now in unit circle, the value of x represents the cos of the angle in reference, and the value of y represents the sine of the angle that we are referring to. Now if this is the case, and if you remember in our previous episode, we said that sine theta over cos theta is going to give us tan theta. Now if we have x axis as 0.87 and the y axis as 0.5, then we can get what is the tangent of 30 degrees, and this one will be, what is the value of our sine theta, and the theta now is 30 degrees. This will be 0.5. You divide by the cos theta, the same cos of the same angle will be 0.87, and now the tangent of 30 degrees will be, the tangent of 30 degrees will be, when we divide 0.5, when we divide 0.5 by 0.87, we get 0.58 into 2 significant figures. Alright? Now, this was the first quadrant. And we have seen that all the trigonometric ratios are positive. All of them are positive. So we indicate that all the trigonometric ratios in the first quadrant are positive. Let us look at the behavior of these trigonometric ratios in the second quadrant. Now, doing the same, if we find now the trigonometric ratio of any angle in this quadrant, we can take 150, for example. If we measure the angle of 150 degrees, let's see where we are going to go from 0. We follow the inner scale. This is 100, this is 120, this is 150, 30, this is 140, this is where 150 is. And then we join that point with the center of our unit circle. With the center of our unit circle. Good. We do the same using a ruler. We drop. This is what I need. Using a ruler, we drop. When you drop, this is where they meet with the x-axis. And when we do the same, this is where they are intersecting with the y-axis. Now, look at this point. Now it is between 0 and -1 because now we are considering the left side of the Cartesian plane. So this value is negative. So it means that because now these are the values of x, our cos, the cosine of 150 degrees will be negative because the value of x on this side is negative. But the sine, which is represented by the y-axis, will be positive because this point on the y-axis is on the positive side of the y-axis. So this point, you can call it Q. The values of x, we can use calculator now because of time. So if we find cos 150 degrees, it's going to give us negative because, of course, 0 to negative. Negative 0.87. And that of y, if we find the sine of 150, we are going to get it as 0.5. So this is this is cos 150 degrees, and this will be sine 150 degrees. So if you look at these values over here, then it means it is only the sine, because if we may write it down here, cos 150 is equals to negative 0.87, and sine, these are degrees, 150 degrees is equals to 0.5. Then it implies that tan 150 degrees will be now, remember the trigonometry 1? We said that sine theta over cos theta is equals to tan theta. Now this one will be sine is 0.5 divided by negative 0.87. So it means now the overall answer of this tan 150 will be now negative value, because when positive is divided by a negative value, then the overall answer becomes negative. Let's see what we are going to get. 0.5 divided by negative 0.87, we are going to get an approximate of negative 0.58. So it means that only the sign in this quadrant is positive. Only the sign that is positive, because cosine is negative 0.87, sine is positive 0.57. When you divide, you get negative 0.58. How about we consider the third quadrant? The third quadrant, I want us to consider an angle of 210 degrees. Now, if this is 180 degrees, what are we going to add so that we get an angle of between 180 degrees and 270 degrees? Of course, we are going to add an angle of 30 degrees. 30 degrees from this. So let's see which scale are we going to use. We are using the inner scale again. This is where 30 degrees is. So we join this point in the center of our unit circle. Good. So the entire, this angle is 210 degrees. Now, let's look at it. If we draw this point on the y-axis and do the same on the x-axis, what's gonna happen? Let's see what's gonna happen. Now, at this point, the values of x are negative and the values of y are negative. What does it mean? That both both coordinates are negative, and because we know x value gives us the cosine and the y values gives us the sine, then it means all the sines and the cosines of angles between 180 degrees and 270 degrees are all negative. So if they are all negative, then it means for us to get the tangent, we will take the sine theta over cos theta, and then because sine is negative and the cosine is negative, then the overall answer will be positive, right? Okay, then what does this mean? What can we say? That all others are negative except tangent. So it means only tangent is positive in this case. Now, let's consider another angle, for example, 330 degrees. Now, if this is 270, what we gonna hand, what size of an angle will we hand to get 360 degrees? Now, let us measure 360 degrees. So you can decide to just get, 330 degrees, you can subtract the value of 30. Let us use the external scale, 30. When you say 360 minus 30, we are left with 330 degrees. All right. Now, the entire of this angle is 330 degrees. Let's see what's gonna happen. By dropping this point on the x-axis and again on y-axis. So the value of y here, because this is negative, is between 0 and -1. So automatically the value of cos becomes, because this is y, the value of sine becomes negative, and the x values will be positive because now we are considering x-axis between 0 and +1. So it means cos will be positive. Alright, guys? Now, if cos is positive, when we say negative sine theta divided by positive cos theta, the overall answer now will become negative. So in the fourth quadrant, only cos that is positive. Only cos that is positive. So what can we say? That in the first quadrant, all the trigonometric ratios of angles between 0 and 90 are positive. And the second quadrant, angles between 90 and 180 degrees, only side that is positive, and the rest are negative. In the third quadrant, only the tangents that are positive, and the rest of the trigonometric ratios are negative. And lastly, on the third quadrant, only the cosine that is positive, the rest are negative, right? Now let us look at this example, because it's going to use this kind of concept. Find sine 20 degrees, hence state the value of sine 160 degrees, sine 200 degrees, and finally sine 340 degrees. So in this problem, I'm gonna use the calculator, the scientific calculator, to find the values of this. Right? Now, let's consider the unit circle. We consider the unit circle. So this is our unit circle. And as we have said earlier, that between 0 and 90, all trigonometric values are positive, and from 90 to 180, only signs that are positive, and between 180 to 270 is only tangent that is positive, and between 270 and 360 degrees, only cosine is positive. So what does this mean? All are positive, only sine is positive, only tangent is positive, and only cos is positive.
Soma kijana, masiku zazidi badilika. Kijana, wazuri wazidi kuzaliwa na dunia.
Now we are supposed to find sine 20 degrees. Sine 20 degrees. Now 20 degrees is between 0 and 90. So automatically the ratio will be positive. So using my calculator over here, sine 20 degrees is equivalent to 0.3420. Now, answers involving calculators, I usually advise students to give the answers in 4 significant figures for reasons that cannot be avoided. So please, if you are watching this video, any answer that you give should be in 4 significant figures if the question is not restricting you. So you don't have to write everything on the screen. You just write in 4 significant figures. Right. Now, sine 20 degrees is equal to 0.3420. Now, if we were to find now sine 160 degrees, the first question we ask ourselves is, in which quadrant does 160 degrees fall? Is it between 0 and 90? The answer is automatically no. So 160 is between 90 and 180 degrees. And we know between this range is only sine that is positive. So we are expecting the answer for sine to be positive. Let's see. So it means sine 160 is equivalent to 0.3420. Right? Now, how about sine 200 degrees? What gonna we get? Now, 200 is between 180 and 270. Sine 200. So angle 200 is between 180 and 270. And we know it's only tangent that is positive over here. So the answer that we're going to get will be negative. So therefore, sine 200 will be negative 0.3420. How about sine 300 degrees? 300 degrees falls between angles 270 and 360, and we know at this point is only cosine that is positive. So sine 300, is it 340? Sorry for that. So that should be 340, but of course it's also on the fourth quadrant. Therefore, we are expecting the answer to be also 0.3420. I don't know whether you have noticed something, that angle sine 20 degrees is equal sine 160 degrees, is also equal sine 200 degrees, negative. And the reason is because it is between 180 degrees and 270 degrees. Because only tangent in this quadrant is positive. You also realize that sine 340 is equal to sine 20 degrees. The difference is the sign, and we know the reason is because it is in the fourth quadrant and it's only the cosine that is supposed to be positive. So what can we conclude? So generally, we say that sine theta is equals positive value, and when we get sine 180 minus theta will give us a positive number or a positive value, and sine 200, sine theta this is now in the second quadrant. In the third quadrant, we're supposed to get 180 degrees plus theta will give us a negative value, and sine in the fourth quadrant, how do we get an angle into the fourth quadrant? It is 360 degrees minus theta will be negative, because only cosine is negative, is positive at this value. So we can also conclude that sine 160 degrees is equals sine 20 degrees, and sine 200 degrees is equals negative sine 20 degrees. Similarly, sine 360 degrees is equals negative sine, not 360 but 340 degrees is equals negative sine 20 degrees. So if you consider this unit circle, and this angle is 0, this is 0 to 2, 0 and 90, 180 and 270. So this is an acute angle. To get an angle between 90 and 180, we say 180 minus that acute angle. And to get another angle over there, here between 180 and 270, we are going to say 180 plus theta. And to get an angle here, using this acute angle, we are going to say 360 minus theta. So this is what we normally do to find the trigonometric ratios of angles between 0 and 360 degrees. So during your free time, just try to find the tangent of 20 and then find the tangent of 160, 200, 340. So you will realize that they will give us this kind of general information.